Good evening, Allie. What a great way to end the show. I didn't know that story. How fantastic.
We talk about Plessy versus Ferguson all the time, but the idea that that Plessy never got his justice until today is we don't often get to end the show on nice things, but that was a good one to do it on.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that justice might take a while, but eventually justice does happen. Allie, thank you very, very much. I'll see you on Sunday.
Have a great show.
All right. Breaking tonight, a federal grand jury has indicted former Trump advisor Steve Bannon on 2 counts of contempt of Congress. The indictment comes 22 days after the House of Representatives voted to send a criminal contempt referral to the Justice Department after Bannon refused to comply with subpoenas from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol, seeking deposition testimony and documents from him. According to the indictment, Bannon had not communicated with the Select Committee in any way since accepting service of the subpoena on September 24th. Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice have been under immense pressure to hold Bannon accountable. Tonight, Garland said, "Since my first day in office, I have promised Justice Department employees that together we would show the American people by word and deed that the department adheres to the rule of law, follows the facts and the law, and pursues equal justice under the law." NBC News is reporting that Bannon is expected to turn himself into law enforcement on Monday. He's scheduled to appear in court Monday afternoon. Bannon is facing up to 1 year in prison and a $100,000 fine. Tonight, Select Committee Chairman Benny Thompson and Vice Chair Liz Cheney said Steve Bannon's indictment should send a clear message to anyone who thinks they can ignore the Select Committee or try to stonewall our investigation. No one is above the law. We will not hesitate to use the tools at our disposal to get the information we need. Select Committee member Jamie Raskin said this about Steve Bannon's indictment on MSNBC last hour.
Here we pursued criminal contempt, and that's just a crime. It was a criminal offense. He violated the law when he stood us up, when he blew off the subpoena, and he violated the law when he refused to produce the documents and the papers we were looking for. But at the same time, on a parallel track, if we bring a civil contempt action against him, the courts also have the power to compel him to testify and to bring us those documents. And if he doesn't, he can be held again behind bars, but he has the key to his own freedom, as the contempt bar says, because all he has to do is testify and turn over the documents, and he can get out of jail on the civil contempt side. But on the criminal contempt side, if he's found guilty, he could be sentenced to jail or to probation or to some other kind of diversionary punishment.
Leading off our discussion tonight, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. He served as a House impeachment manager during the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Congressman Swalwell, welcome back to The Last Word. You were part of both impeachment investigations in the Trump era. What do you make of this indictment?
There's a new sheriff in town, frankly, Jonathan, and that the rule of law matters again in America. Look, for the last couple of years, Steve Bannon has run around like a thug in a movie where the gang has the police and the local judge in their pocket, and he's acted as if he could, act with impunity, and laws didn't matter, almost like he was a pirate in international waters. And he never hid the fact that he believed that, really just defying the law and being pardoned by Donald Trump for bilking many Americans out of their hard-earned money when they thought it was going to building the wall. And then, of course, just recently not showing up when he was supposed to for this January 6th committee. But we're not seeking this contempt order, and we're not celebrating Steve Bannon, being indicted because he's a bad guy. And Jonathan, he's a bad guy. This is important because what happened on January 6th could happen again. And if we don't understand who was around the president, who financed what happened on the 6th, what the mindset of the president was, this will happen again. And so this is, the beginning of getting to the bottom of what happened.
There was a lot of concern on lots of shows on this network and among a lot of people about the fact that it was, quote unquote, taking Attorney General Merrick Garland too long to do what he ended up doing today. Did you think that the Attorney General took too long, or did he walk through the process at the pace that it needed to be done?
I didn't think he took too long, and I was not in the camp that was too worried. I frankly appreciated having an Attorney General who was independent again, and I was going to reserve judgment until a decision was made on this, and I think the right call was made. And now the question is for Mark Meadows and so many other of the president's enablers on January 6th, do you want to go the way of Bannon and be indicted and be hauled into court, or do you want to cooperate? And if you don't want to cooperate, Jonathan, then we should just draw the inference that you're not cooperating because you're protecting the guilt of Donald Trump or you're protecting the guilt of yourself.
So, Congressman Swalwell, do you think we are putting too much emphasis on this indictment of Bannon? I'm just wondering, does it bode well for the Select Committee investigating, waiting for more testimony and documents, and a court ruling on executive privilege, that what the Justice Department did to Bannon is going to send this, really truly send the signal that will be heeded by all these other people who got slapped with subpoenas this week?
Yeah, it bodes well for justice. This isn't about red team versus blue team. This is about whether the rule of law matters anymore and whether people around the former president are above the law, or if they have to follow the same laws that you and I have to follow. And the department signaled today for the first time in nearly 40 years that if you defy a congressional subpoena, you will be held to account. And now those dozens of others who have indicated they're not going to come in or who have not come in, my money is, Jonathan, they're going to be ringing the phones of the Select Committee over the weekend to try and schedule their appearances.
Last night on All In, Eric Holder, the former Attorney General, explained the difference between subpoenaed witnesses not testifying in the January 6th investigation and why he did as Attorney General. Let's listen.
I testified 9 times in connection with Fast and Furious, knowing that it was a kangaroo court that I was going before. But out of respect to the institution, out of respect to Congress, I thought that I had to go. In spite of the fact that Darrell Issa, Louis Gohmert, and the other idiots on the Oversight Committee were doing things that were inconsistent with their oaths, it was all political. I understood that. But I didn't think as Attorney General that I could refuse to go. I didn't need a subpoena. Didn't request a subpoena.
Right.
Well, if they asked me to come, I showed up. And, as I said, on 9 occasions, I did that.
Do you think that was a consideration for DOJ, that this wasn't a good faith refusal of a subpoena, but an attempt to nuke the process?
Yes, and it was a continuation of what had happened under the prior administration in the Russia investigation, when Don McGahn would not cooperate with the Judiciary Committee around what he had seen as far as obstruction of justice by the president in the first impeachment of Donald Trump as it related to the Ukraine scandal. And of course, in the second impeachment, where witnesses told us if we subpoenaed them, they wouldn't come in. So this was the pattern of the Donald Trump administration. And now, again, there's a sheriff in town that says the rule of law matters. And this matters, Jonathan, because the temperature is rising in America. We have a Republican Party that believes and is more comfortable with violence than voting. And as we go into the midterms, if we don't have a rule of law that matters, this party, who is bankrupt and void of any ideas to make anyone's life in America better, they will seek to use violence if we don't inoculate ourselves as Americans and as institutions against what's coming.
Before I let you go, Congressman Swalwell, given what happened to Steve Bannon today, being indictment, what do you think Mark Meadows, the former White House Chief of Staff, who was supposed to appear today and didn't, what do you think's going through his mind right now? What do you think he'll do?
He's wondering what's the fastest way to get a hold of the Select Committee and schedule his appearance. Again, Mark Meadows, look, there's no honor for anyone that defies a subpoena, but Steve Bannon is pretty evil, and we dealt with him during the Russia investigation. He was almost like the Joker in the Batman movie. Mark Meadows, I've dealt with him too. That guy doesn't have any principles. He only thinks about himself. I'm not thinking that he's going to go the way of Bannon. I think he's going to fold quite quickly, and the Select Committee will hear from him probably pretty shortly.
All right, Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, and also belated congratulations again on baby Hank.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Joining us now are Cynthia Oxney and Glenn